think you should have won, so you didn't want to be home.
I didn't think you deserved it.
You were,
So those two now. In a minute, so
Take them to the mat. Take them to the mat.
This is the quietest I think
I know.
I felt like this.
no, Pete's not here.
You're good.
He's the talker.
Good evening. It is 6 o'clock, so I will call to order this meeting of the Noblesville Common Council for Tuesday, September 23rd. If you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Thurston will lead us this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Ms. Stackleback, would you please do the roll call?
Mr. Boyce.
Present?
Mr. Davis.
Present.
Mr. Elliott.
Present.
Mr. Johnson.
Present?
Mr. Peterson.
Present?
Mr. Schwartz. Mr. Smith.
Present.
Mr. Thurston.
Present?
Ms. Wiles.
Present.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We will move on to the approval of the minutes from our September 9th, 2025 meeting.
Move to approve.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from September 9th, 2025. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. Approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. Petitions or comments by citizens who are present. If anyone would like to speak, please fill out a comment card that's you can find on the table outside the door, and then hand it to the clerk's table, and we will be happy to hear you. But since I see no one moving around, I'm going to call on the mayor. Hello, Mayor Johnson.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the council. Great to be with you yet again today. I'm here I'm going to be up a little bit later to talk about one of the main things we're here to talk about tonight, which is our new 2026 budget. But first, I want to start by thanking you and congratulating the city of Noblesville and Central Indiana, and quite frankly, the state of Indiana, for landing a huge announcement this morning. After months and months, and maybe even a year or two of work, USA Gymnastics announced this morning that they will be relocating their corporate headquarters, as well as building their state-of-the-art training and wellness facility right here in Noblesville. And I think that's a kudos to the work that you all have done. I have to give a lot of thanks to staff who I didn't get a chance to thank earlier today, but Andrew Murray, Matt Light and their team, John Hughes, Sarah Reed, the whole team worked tirelessly. I've learned a lot about gymnastics in the past 18 months, something I didn't foresee happening in my life, but it's been great. It's been wonderful to work with. I'm still not quite as limber as I'd like to be, but I will say it was interesting to learn that we are one of the few countries that doesn't have a combined training and wellness center for our Olympic athletes within gymnastics. That is what spurred USA Gymnastics to go search this out over the past 18 months. They did a nationwide search for a community to land this facility. There were originally about 18 communities that submitted on the bid, and it came down this summer to 3 major communities: Frisco, Texas, Colorado Springs, which are both incredible sports powerhouses, and Noblesville, Indiana, which I think is a powerhouse of everything, personally. And I just think our tireless effort and conversation with them made it a perfect fit for them to land here. So we are so honored to have them getting ready to break ground this spring on their 200,000 square foot facility, about $120 million investment that they'll be making here in Noblesville, with the goal of having that facility open for all Olympic athletes to train in prior to the 2028 games, which will be in Los Angeles. So it's an aggressive goal, but I think we've done aggressive things before, and we made that announcement in a pretty aggressive building today. And I think that what helped lead us to this conversation. So kudos to everyone's foresight to get that done. It's not just about Olympic gymnasts, though. I will say they are passionate about the grassroots movement around Olympics or around gymnastics in America. And you're going to see kids of all ages in and out of that building. They are planning to host about 110 events in that space alone, in addition to the Arena Innovation Mile. That's going to equate to about 22,000 hotel rooms a year for Hamilton County. So it's a big opportunity. Currently, the female athletes train in Texas, male athletes train in Colorado, and then rhythmic gymnastics is up in Chicago. This will combine all those here to Noblesville, Indiana. So it was just a heck of a morning making that announcement, and just continues to put Noblesville on the map and the state of Indiana on the map. So I just wanted to start by saying thank you for you all for coming alongside this effort and continuing this conversation. It's because of our relationship that we all have, and the vision that we're all working towards every single day that I believe USA Gymnastics chose Noblesville, Indiana. So I'll be back up later to talk about continuing to make those investments in our budget conversation, but wanted to make that announcement and just say thanks, and thanks to all the citizens of Noblesville for continuing to support our great community moving forward. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Any questions of the mayor at this point?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yep, congratulations. We will move on to council committee reports and finance. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. We met September 18th. Pete Schwartz, Aaron Smith, Todd Thurston, and myself. We discussed a resolution for tax abatement authorization for Patch Nyer Deer Creek Building 2 LLC. Chuck Haberman went over that with us, and he also went over another economic development area, the Granary, in between 8th and 9th Street. Chuck and Amy Smith discussed an ordinance for a bond authorization for the Granary, and Holly Ramon discussed an ordinance for the 2026 maximum wages. Jeff Spalding and Tom McDonald discussed our 2026 introduced budget, and Jeff talked to us a little bit about the high assessed value AV growth levy appeal that might be tentative. That and the claims docket comes to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Davis? Finance committee.
Madam President,
Mr. Thurston.
make a motion to approve the claims as submitted.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to approve the claims as presented. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. All right. Miscellaneous item number 1. Council to hear a presentation from Serve Noblesville and Patrick Probst. If you will please come up and introduce yourself, name and address.
Yeah, my name is Patrick Probst, 1352 Cherry Street. Stop on by sometime. Thank you all for allowing me to speak here tonight. Thank you, Madam President. Love to share a little bit about Serve Noblesville and what we've been able to accomplish in this last year. Do I need to do anything here? Or is this going to do its own thing?
No.
We'll all find out together.
Okay.
Right.
What is it you're wanting to do?
Well, they told me this in the presentation. I'm glad to share this way,
Here it
if
comes.
you'd all prefer. So. Serve Noblesville, Serve Village? Okay. I'm glad to tell you about it anyway.
There is an overhead back there
if you
to your right,
put it on the other end.
if that'll work.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.
There you go.
Sorry for you all.
Well, they
No,
can
they
see
can
it.
see it on the sides too. Well, they could a minute ago. There we go.
We can now see it better.
Literally, you're right as I say.
And
that.
we have it in screens in front of us.
Right.
Yeah, you're good.
Excellent. Thank you. Is this a hazing thing that we do with the council? Appreciate it. Glad to do it again.
We call it orientation, not hazing.
Great. Serve Noblesville has, with the support of so many fantastic community members, as the mayor said, a powerhouse. I think we can make that a slogan, Noblesville, the powerhouse of the Midwest. We're glad to be a part of that, glad to be leading the way with our work in the community. Pause. Do I need to do anything with this? Do I hit it?
Yes. Oh, no.
Okay. It's going to go. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Awesome. We are rocking. I want to share just a little bit of the success that we've had this last year. with some of our programming, and then I'll share a little bit about what that programming has looked like a little bit more specifically. In this last year, we've had almost 1,400 volunteers that have been engaged with the work that we do in the community. We have had over 850 community event attendees. People have come to Fun Fest, The Longest Table, been involved with Come Together Week. They've shown up to different events that we've hosted, which is really the mission of SERVE, to connect community. We've had 381 new Impact Noblesville users. That's the volunteer website that we started a year ago, a little over a year and a half ago. And we completed 134 service projects throughout Hamilton County. And I'll share a little bit about those later on as well. We've had over 120 nonprofits that have partnered and connected and served our community in various unique ways. We've had 48 nonprofits that attended our longest table this year that was great to have the city represented at and a part of, despite having to move it from Seminary Park out to Outlaws. We've also planted 39 flowering trees on residential property, part of our project to make Noblesville a blooming city in the historic area. We've put in 5 murals and alley beautification installs and had 4 so far neighborhoods that we've initiated activation with in historic downtown. In Serve Week, which is again our flagship program, we had 676 volunteers out and completed 76 projects in those 4 days, including home revitalization for neighborhood community members, park improvements, doing some shed builds, and supporting many local nonprofits. We had 52 schools, sports teams, churches, scout troops, businesses, and families engaged with Serve Week. And so they use this as an opportunity for building culture, stepping away from their normal routines, and doing something good out in the community. And throughout all the work that we've done, over $126,000 was invested back into the community through the sweat equity and the efforts of Serve Week. It's pretty a phenomenal week of action and activity. We always love seeing the Army of Red out there working in various parts throughout the county. In addition, Longest Table, which is part of our Come Together Week, is the Nonprofit Appreciation Lunch. Like I said, we had 48 nonprofits in Hamilton County that came to the lunch. We had 120 nonprofit leaders that were at the event. And we're thankful to have partners like Armstrong Accounting Solutions and Outlaws Steaks, Burgers, and Brews, who are partners and see the value of the nonprofits and the work they do across the county. That Longest Table event kicks off our Come Together Week. And this last year, we had probably our best Come Together Week with businesses and nonprofits really engaging. One way that we saw that happen was Noblesville Youth Baseball collected non-perishable food items for Harvest Hamilton County Harvest Food Bank. They collected over 300 pounds over their weekend tournament on Memorial Day weekend. And the photos of those teams bringing those items together and the joy that they got from that was part of what makes Serve Week, Serve Noblesville, and our work so powerful during Come Together Week. Throughout that entire weekend, we also had a neighbor in the community who hosted their own independent fundraiser to help us with our programming, an event that they called the Boots, Bourbon, and Brickyard event. So it's part of that, of just seeing the initiation of our neighbors in our community who are taking that step to partner with us and take our mission even further. At Fun Fest, we partnered with the Mayor's Youth Council for the second year, and we saw growth there with over 500 community members coming out for the music, the food, the crafts, and the culture that's celebrated here in our community by our ever-changing neighbors that are here. We celebrated the diverse cultures, both of past, present, and future, as folks are finding Noblesville home and cementing their roots and their futures here. Like I said, the neighborhood activation, we planted 39 flowering trees, had 2 new murals and 3 alley projects that we partnered with, putting in gardens and hosting a block party. We also partnered with the city departments and neighborhood groups on a number of different things. So getting to put kind of that work out into those alleys to clean them up, make them a little bit more appeasing, particularly with the trail systems and everything that's getting finished on the city's agenda. And then on Impact Noblesville, the volunteer website, when I wrote this, we had 33 agencies. We're close to 40 agencies that are currently listed on there. We have over 900 volunteers registered on there. And we've had over 143 volunteer opportunities and over 2,268 volunteer spots filled just this last year with that volunteer website. So the nonprofits are utilizing this in a number of different ways, and they're engaging with volunteers that are beyond the regular routine volunteers of people who know their mission, which again just strengthens the work that they're doing throughout our county as well as our city. For a financial overview of kind of what that picture looks like for us as a small organization, 42% of our income comes from grants in the way of about 32.5. We get corporate sponsorships that covers about 32% of our budget with 24,500, and then the rest of it comes through individuals and events at just under 20,000, covering 26%. In addition to that, what is unbudgeted but still comes in is we have almost $25,000 of in-kind donations that come in through supplies and materials that help us to accomplish our mission and work, which is just another great asset for the ways that businesses partner with us using their skill and their talents and what they have available to them to make our work feasible and possible. All that's great, but we have dreams to go even further. As a powerhouse city, we want to be a powerhouse organization. And if you look back at the history of Serve Noblesville, to think that we started back in 2008 with an organization called Faith, Hope, and Love as a bunch of local youth pastors and churches that were just looking for an opportunity for our families to serve. In 2012, Faith, Hope, and Love moved on and gave us permission to continue the work we were doing, but to come up with our own name. We weren't the most creative group, so we just took what we did and put the city's name on it. So we served Noblesville, and we really operated just as a collaboration among those church groups until 2018. In 2015, we continued to see things grow as businesses and organizations and community members partnered with our work and showed up really unprovoked. We weren't planning on growth. And in 2018, we realized we needed to create a separate 501c3. And so we did that. In 2019, we added Fun Fest and Come Together Week to the week of service that we already offered. And in 2024, we launched Charming Noblesville, which included Impact Noblesville, the neighborhood activation, and the neighbor beautification projects. In 2025, we're taking another big step for us. While we've operated as doing business as Serve Noblesville, we have realized that there's an opportunity for more of what we're doing to be shared in different communities and really throughout the world. We've had invitations to go to Africa, South America, Central America, and beyond. And so we want to begin to create Serve Village as an opportunity that can grow in capacity, but also can be reproduced in different communities with the playbooks that we put together. And all that happens with the work and the effort that has happened here as Serve Noblesville. Serve Noblesville will always serve as the defining example of what it looks like for community engagement, community compassion, and the community asset-based process that we follow. So we will roll back to Serve Village as a nonprofit, which is what we actually set it up for in 2018 in hopes that someday we might get here. And as we've done that, we have reestablished what our dream and purpose is. So our dream is to develop thriving communities where neighbors serving neighbors becomes second nature, and every connection contributes to a stronger tomorrow. In addition, our purpose is that we exist to create a lasting change that activates the power of community by inspiring service, creating space for connection, and celebrating the strengths of every neighbor. Our community commitments that we offer is that we celebrate everything. We create a place of collaboration through collective impact and compassion while creating connection. The community voices will get shared out in the report afterwards. I encourage you to hear some of the testimonies of our community members. Many of you up there also know the impact of Serve firsthand because you've come out and been involved with various programs. So thank you for that, and thank you for your support. Where we're heading 25 through the rest of 25 and 26, our annual celebration is coming up January 9th. We'll celebrate the collective work that we've done and offer the 7 awards that recognize individuals and groups who embody the values that Serve Village puts out in our community. Like I said, we'll return to Serve Village as our working organizational name so that we can build capacity in order to launch chapters in a few years. We'll be launching single days of service. We started with Martin Luther King this last year. We're hoping that throughout that we have 4 other single days of service. Our next one will be Veterans Day coming up in November. Our downtown alley activation will begin a program that's called Art and Soul Days. We're really putting art and gardens and pocket parks on private property to create shared space and to beautify the alleys that are throughout historic downtown, while also activating all 12 historic neighborhoods in Noblesville. And then additionally, we plan to expand and grow Impact Noblesville. It will become Impact Hamco, so that we can make sure that we're reaching the nonprofits that exist throughout Hamilton County and aren't necessarily quartered off by the zip codes when they cross city lines. And so getting new profits both signed up, but also existing profits trained and equipped so they can better utilize volunteers in serving our community in ways that are practical and meaningful and necessary. This is the work that we do. This is the work that the city supports us in doing, and we thank you for that support and the stories that come out of that. It is making not only a difference today, but we are seeing it's making a generational difference. It is beginning to plant the seed and the passion in the young people that come out with their families to volunteer and engage in the work we do. So thank you. Questions? Yes.
So as you're going out and doing the Hamilton County and some of that kind of stuff, are you gonna be getting some funding from Hamilton County and some of the other
With your help.
communities?
We're trying. We are trying to do that. We've had some conversations around that. It helps if the cities and the counties help pave the way for that. However, SERV has always operated in a very grassroots effort. And so when larger parties have balked at the opportunity, the people in the community have always stepped up and showed up. And so while that would make it easier for us to open chapters in other communities, we are also creating a playbook that allows us to put key stakeholders together in the communities that want to see this model move in, and to leverage their resources, their networks, their assets to help us move into those communities, because then the passion is really birthed out of the community. So we are setting ourselves up for both possibilities, and we'll take the path of least resistance.
Great. Other questions or comments?
Not a question, just a comment, Patrick. Thank you. I mean, thinking back to 2008, when this started as part of our church, to have the wheels it has and to have had the impact it has had for these, how many, do the math, years, is remarkable. And the ability to take this Serve Noblesville model and extend it to other communities who have every bit the same kinds of needs that we have is really remarkable. And thanks to you and to Michelle hiding back there, your president, and the rest of your board for the work they do.
Yep.
Thank you.
It really comes from the passion of the people in the community, and so for us to be able to make it easy and accessible for those things to happen is kind of the fun and the challenge of what we offer.
I mean, I look at it as a representation of what makes, one of the things that makes Noblesville such an outstanding place to live.
We agree. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all that you do. Yep.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks. Okay. We will move on to previously discussed ordinance. Council to consider ratification of ordinance 22-07-25, an ordinance approving an additional appropriation in the general fund for operating expenses for the arena at Innovation Mile. Jonathan Hughes, good evening.
Good evening, Council. Jonathan Hughes, City Attorney. What is before you is an ordinance that we previously discussed in August and was actually approved by a vote of the board in August. When we went to go ratify that to the state, we discovered that the notice did not get into the newspaper. And so we've now renoticed this up. Notices all ran as of September the 10th. And so we just need to have a public hearing, and then after that public hearing, have a vote to ratify your decision already approving this ordinance. So I'll step aside. If you have any questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, we can open up the public hearing.
Any questions of Mr. Hughes? Seeing none, I would open the public hearing for ordinance number 22-07-25.
Madam President,
Mr. Davis,
seeing nobody come forward, I move to close the public hearing for ordinance number 220725.
Second.
it has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for ordinance number 22-07-25. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0.
Madam President,
Mr. Davis,
I move to ratify ordinance number 2207-25.
Second.
it has been moved and seconded to ratify ordinance number 22-07-25. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Steckelback.
Mr. Boyce,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Elliott,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Thurston,
Aye.
Ms. Wiles.
Aye.
Madam President, 8-0.
Thank you very much. New ordinance for discussion. Council to consider ordinance number 31-09-25, an ordinance establishing the 2026 budget. Mayor Jensen, we're going to vote.
Move to introduce.
Second.
Now, Mayor Jensen.
Good evening again, Madam President. You're going to hear a lot tonight about the budget that we have put together for 2026 with your help and input. Before I start though, and I'll pass it off to our fiscal leaders, I want to start by saying thank you to each one of you for taking time. I'm sure the public may not realize this process starts well in advance of tonight. In fact, it usually starts about April-ish of every year. And you all work diligently alongside incredibly smart, talented, hardworking department heads to craft the 2026 budget with our guidance from our office. So I just want to say thank you. I want to thank Matt Light, Jeff Spalding, Tom McDonald, so many of the people who have poured over this this budget that you'll see here in front of you tonight. So the 2026 budget continues to emphasize on several things. One, living within our means, being good stewards of taxpayer funds, and making smart investments in our community. Before I get into the actual dollars and numbers, I want to highlight just a little bit of the atmosphere of which we introduced this budget within. And we've talked about it quite a bit, and that's the impact of Senate Bill 1, or SEA 1, now that it is Senate Enrolled Act 1. That is Governor Braun's property tax plan that he put forth in front of the legislature that passed earlier this year. So just to give you a little understanding of kind of how that impacts Noblesville directly moving forward. So under Senate Bill 1, or SEA 1, you're going to look at the 5-year fiscal forecast. We're going to receive $30.4 million less in core revenues over the next 4 years. We'll receive $8.2 million less in fiscal year 2026 than we had projected in the pre-Senate Bill 1 forecasting. I think it's important to point out, we do a long-range lookout and look back as we look to adjust our budgets, and the state does very similar things. So we were obviously already knee-deep last year into that 5-year lookout when this new legislation was proposed in front of us. So obviously we have some ducking and weaving and changes to make, which is really hard to do, as you can imagine, in one of the fastest-growing communities in the state of Indiana. But again, with your help, we're going to get there. So the 2026 budget, you'll see an overall proposed amount of $119.2 million. I think that's important to point out. That is actually $8.4 million less than the 2025 adopted budget. We asked all of our department heads to keep their ongoing expenses at under 1%. Again, which is a huge challenge in a community like ours, based on those Senate SEA 1 impacts. And I'm proud to say that our target was $931,000 increase. That's that 1% overall increase. We came at about $53,000 underneath that target. So kudos to all of you and our department heads for the hard work that they put in. Our tax rate in 2026 will actually decrease from $1.10 to a 97-cent tax rate. You'll recall that we have had about a $1.10 tax rate ongoing for about 6 years now. We've used that $1.10 tax rate as a healthy measure to budget towards, based on some constraints put in SEA 1. That rate will fall. That doesn't necessarily mean tax rates or tax bills will fall of individuals, but that our tax rate within the city does go down to 97 cents. Obviously, priority number one for us is always public safety, and if you want to see what your priorities are, you should look at your budget. I'm proud to say that this budget contributes 54.7% of our budget to ongoing operational expenses in our public safety department. That is up from 52% last year. I remember several years ago when we hit that 50% mark and how important that was to all of us. I will also say that this budget will maintain our AA+ credit rating, which is incredibly important moving forward as we look to continue to grow our community. This budget commits to completing or moving forward with priority capital projects. I want to highlight a few of those that you'll hear, because I am going to talk about a few that are going to be deferred based on that. But we'll continue moving forward with Pleasant Street, which I look forward to maybe standing up here next year and not using that term. which will be foreign to me at some point in time. Our new police station, land acquisition for our new fire station as we look to balance out our fire territories. Oleo Road widening, Bowden Road widening, again, focusing on the east side of Noblesville as we continue to grow there. Our Embrace Downtown project, you'll recall, and many of you know at nauseum, we've been saving for that project for years into a designated fund. We'll continue in making that investment. Still moving forward with a nickel plate trail bridge over 146th Street. We have good partnerships with Fishers and Hamilton County to partner with that. And if you live down on that south end of town, Dave Johnson, it's important to have a bridge to get over 146th Street. We're moving forward with that project as well. State Road 37 interchanges. As you know, we're currently finalizing our agreement with our friends at the Indiana Department of Transportation to move the 37 project north of 146th Street to those additional intersections at Greenfield, Town and Country Pleasant, and State Road 32 and State Road 38. And then our annual neighborhood street and sidewalk resurfacing and improvement project and plan we'll continue to move forward with, which is something we continue to chip away at every single year as we add lane miles. We need to not only add new roadway, we need to maintain our existing roadway, and that comes with a huge challenge. But those will all continue to be funded and move forward. But there are several that we have deferred, several programs and capital projects in our 10-year capital improvement plan based on the SEA 1 impact. So a few of those, the ice skating rink at Federal Hill Commons after this year will probably be going away. There's several quality of life and trail gap projects, there's several intersection improvement projects. Our dog park project, which we've talked about for a long time, will probably be deferred based on incoming income streams. A new road salt barn. Council President, I know you love a good salt barn. We're going to defer that for a little bit of time. And then we're also going to shift to less frequent roadside and right-of-way mowing and landscaping. We're going to adjust our timelines on some of our own roadside landscaping that we do to spread them out a little bit in order for a cost savings measure as well. All that to say too, we have frozen any unplanned hiring going forward for the time being, as well as any pay increases to employees going forward in 2026. I did email the staff, all of our employees who work tirelessly every day to serve the city of Noblesville, to outline our budget for them earlier today, with that announcement that the current time, based on the funding we have available, there will be no compensation increases in 2026, which is incredibly hard because we all believe that they work incredibly hard and deserve that. But we, under the current fiscal standpoint we have, it's the facts that we have in front of us, and I know you all respect that and appreciate your support as we move forward with that. So as I stated during my stay at the city several weeks ago, we've been focused on government efficiency, public safety, infrastructure, our return on investments, which is incredibly important, collaboration with you as the fiscal body, and growing our tax base for the benefit of current and future generations. We appreciate all the participation and insight during this several-month process and look forward to working through remaining steps that put us in a strong position going into next year. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions, but I'm going to turn it over probably to Tom McDonald, I would assume, to carry on the conversation. But thank you again for all the work that we put into what was a very challenging budget. Some would say not challenging. When you don't have money, it's actually easier to budget sometimes, but also very challenging as we have to make these very hard decisions going forward. So thank you, Madam President.
Any questions of the mayor before we hear from others?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Spalding.
Yeah, actually, it'll be me first, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff Spalding, CFO and Controller, and we have a brief presentation overview of the budget that I'll start out on, and then Tom will complete. But before we go into that, I wanted to address a couple technical things to remind you of on this process. First of all, just as you know, typically on most ordinances, the public hearing comes at the second reading, but on this ordinance, the public hearing is tonight, and then that's all built into the state process on the budget, which requires a notification to taxpayers that was sent out September 12th, and then that manifests itself into a budget ordinance that you have in front of you. It's not part of this presentation, but that's the ordinance that you have is the official action that you will take. And as was discussed in Finance Committee, and we've talked about in the past in this annual process, because of the way the requirements of the state Department of Local Government Finance and state law establish how you have to define your maximum budget levels and your maximum tax rates. That ordinance has, the budgets are pretty similar to what you see in here, but the levies and the tax rates are all above what we will present in this presentation. And again, there's lots of technical reasons why you have to do that in the process, but what we do in managing the city's finances are adhere to the budget that we present to you, and there's some other documentation that will come before this body to reference all of that. So with that, just wanted to address that formal document, and we'll go into the presentation here. So starting off, budget and perspective, the mayor covered some very key important points with regard to Senate Enrolled Act 1. Some of that information is here for you to reference, but that's really the most overarching impact on this budget process. The environment that we were building this budget in was a Senate Enrolled Act 1 environment. Then as a consequence of that environment, significant budget restraint was put in place for 2026, and as the mayor referenced, the overall budget is actually going down year over year. There are, as we talk about, there are base budget items which are ongoing costs that maintain the operations of the city. So some of those are increasing a bit. They all fall within this 1% growth target for ongoing cost increase. The overall decrease is a result of one-time appropriations that are approved in 2025 that we don't have as many of those in 2026. And then within that restraint that was established, there's still the continued emphasis on public safety, with a majority of the ongoing funding going to public safety. I guess I do want to mention one other thing about Senate Enrolled Act 1, and something that will come up later in the presentation. It talks about in here that it drives down the city property tax rate in 2026, as the mayor referenced, but drives it up thereafter. We'll talk about that more in the future. But one other factor that will be playing into the final adopted budget, which will come before this body in 2 weeks, is, as you've heard in the news, there is some activity going on at the county on recertification of assessed values. So that will play a little bit of a role in the final property tax rate number. The 97 cents that the mayor referenced, that's the working number that was established with the certified net assessed values that were in place at the time we prepared this. But with some movement in that certified net assessed value, that property tax rate may move a little bit to just ensure that we can still capture our maximum allowable levy, that type of thing. So just wanted you to be aware that if you hear that number move a little bit, it's related to that change in certified net AV. Then again, just things that are relatively significant for the process that we go through in building the budget are information related to net AV growth, what's happening with the property tax levy, income tax growth, and then most importantly, and you're familiar with this from past years, we definitely keep an eye on our reserve balances. We maintain strong reserve balances, but we also don't want to, just hoard reserves. And so there is a conscientious effort looked at in every budget and included in this budget to spend down reserves if we feel that reserve balances are getting above a prudent level, and to spend them down thoughtfully. And this budget is the same as in previous years, is that there is a $4.4 million strategic spend down of rainy day fund reserves included in this budget. Now, to be clear, that is less than we have been typically doing over the past few years. Some of those years it's been 10 million, 7.5 million, that type of thing. But we do still continue that practice. And with that kind of lays the groundwork in the environment. And and most of the major factors that went into providing the context for departments building the budget that Tom will summarize here with you next.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mayor and Madam President, members of the council. Tom McDonald, Deputy Financial Officer. And the remaining portion of this presentation is to give you more detail about the changes that comprise the 2026 introduced budget and some other relevant context. There's a lot more in here than I will discuss, but we purposefully include a lot of information for reference material in case questions are asked of you. So overall, the budget before you totals $119.2 million. That includes all budgeted funds for operations, pension obligations, and debt service. But the portion of the budget that gets a lot of attention is that's funded with what we call core operational revenues, or the general tax supported revenues, for which you have the most flexibility to determine how they're spent. And that portion totals $98.2 million. And as previously discussed, we had the mayor establish a growth cap of 1%, and for ongoing increases in core operational funding, and this budget achieves that with an increase of 0.9%. So, but before going further, and in addition to the revenue impact that was discussed for Senate Enrolled Act 1, the city is also facing other ongoing cost pressures that were addressed early on in the budget process, the part of the process we call the base budget process. So just kind of backing up a step, when we build the budget, we establish a baseline budget. We've included a definition here for you. It's a formal definition, but in essence, the base budget represents the cost of continuing the existing level of ongoing city services. So if you did nothing else, if you approved no other changes in the budget, the base budget represents what it would cost just to remain city services at the steady state. And we're talking about this tonight because there were some rather important changes that got built into the base budget that the city needs to fund. So after removing the one-time appropriations that you approved this year, other changes that took place, chief among them being the $772,000 increase for sworn public safety officer retirement plans. And this is based on the required employer contribution rate that's set by INPERS. So it's a cost that the city doesn't really have a choice but to fund, and that's included in the base budget. I included here too a summary of some of the other cost increases that were included in the base budget. Another one I'll mention is employee retirement health plan costs. So there are more employees entering into the retiree health plan than exiting it. So that's another example of a cost pressure that's included in the base budget. So those are changes that occurred before departments even submitted their budget requests. And then on top of the base adjustments, the budget includes $6.6 million in overall increases. Of that, $1.4 million is for ongoing expenses, and $5.2 million is for one-time increases. And just to note that $5.2 million is about half of the one-time adjustments that's included in the 2025 budget. So introduced budgets funding, we got 50% of the one-time appropriations funded in the current year. And then this slide gives you a summary of what the ongoing budget increases are. These were all presented to you during the department, when departments presented their budgets to you last month. I'm not going to go through these. And the next slide shows you the one-time adjustments. Again, that's $5.2 million. Of the $5.2 million in one-time costs, $4.4 million is being supported through the strategic spend down of available cash reserves. And then a couple I want to mention here because they haven't been previously discussed is that you'll see at the top line is $1.7 million for a 27th pay period. So organizations that have a typical cycle of 26 pay periods, every 11 years the calendar works out where there is a 27th pay period that occurs within those 12 months. So that is a one-time cost for the city. That's what the 1.7 million is. And another item I just want to mention, wasn't discussed in the department presentations. The budget includes $787,000 for the new police station on Division Street. This is being funded with one-time revenue, and that's going to help, you see in parentheses, bond buy down. It's going to mean that we have to borrow less to fund that project. And then after all of the changes in the introduced budget, we have a summary here of what the estimated cash balances are for the city. We have this by general fund, rainy day fund, and our core operational, what we call or total operational funds. And a little bit more context on the revenue that supports the budget. We included here a summary of all the local tax rates, and I'll just go into a little bit about how those local taxes factor in to the introduced budget. So probably no surprise at all that local taxes support most of the city's budget, 82%. And then probably also no surprise that most of the local taxes are funded with property tax or local income taxes. And then just another view of how revenue supports the budget. This view is by fund type, so most of the revenue is core operational revenue, and then most of the property tax revenue is budgeted as core operations. This slide shows you a year-over-year comparison of 2025 revenue to 2026, and it's a overall decrease of $4.4 million. Main reason for this is the limitation on the city's ability to issue short-term debt for capital projects or one-year bond, because we don't have a one-year bond in this budget. We're leveraging less tax revenue. And again, this is just a similar view showing that decrease just for local taxes only, and that decrease is occurring in the property taxes. And in terms of budgeted expenditures, again, we kind of keep coming back to the core operational budget. Most of the budget is core operations. By expense category, the largest cost is for personal services or employee costs. Here's another look at that by operational funds only. So I mentioned before that there is an overall increase of $6.6 million from base to introduced, and this is an illustration of that increase by department. And most of that increase for both ongoing and one time is in police and fire, followed by street. And then another view of that, just for the ongoing portion of that increase, $1.4 million. Very similar distribution with police and fire and street at the top of the increases for ongoing funding. I kind of mentioned all that as a lead up to how the city is choosing to spend its core operational budget. And the largest share of that is going for public safety. And so what you see here is just the public safety budget from 2022 through 2026 for ongoing funding. And it represents an increase of around $34.6 million in 2022 to over $51 million in 2026. As a share of the overall core operations budget, public safety has increased from 51.3% to 54.7%. So it's a growing share. And then we just have a couple slides of the introduced budget by department for overall funding and then operational funds, just information for you. Kind of similar slide for the show how the city spends its tax debt levy funds. And then capital funding, a couple slides to summarize was included in the budget for capital projects. This is a summary of not the overall capital projects budget. This is not the capital improvement plan. This just represents the new funding or existing ongoing funding that supports capital projects that you're being asked to act upon. So it does not include previously issued bonds or non-appropriated funds. It is just the appropriated part of the capital budget that's either new or ongoing, and that totals $5.1 million in the introduced budget. And then we included a summary of the planned projects with that 5.1 million. And just again, a couple notes. This does not represent the universe of capital projects. There are other projects that are moving forward with other fund sources that aren't budgeted, such as park or road impact fees, or previously issued short-term project bonds. And also a note that included on the slide, so $1.5 million of other budgeted city funds will also support funding of the projects that are listed here. And then similar to that, this may also be how the Brick Street Rehab project might be dedicated in the same way as well, kind of depending on the feedback that the city receives after the engineering options analysis for that project. Then lastly, we just, included other notable items. Won't go through this list, but these are, we don't give a lot of information on overall, spending for healthcare or retirement plans. So we include that here for your reference. This is not showing you the change in spending, it's just the overall spending for these elements. That's all we have for our slideshow. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on this presentation? Thank you very much. So this is a matter for a public hearing, so I will go ahead and open the public hearing for ordinance number 31-09-25.
Madam President,
Mr. Davis.
I move to close the public hearing for ordinance number 310925.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for ordinance number 31-09-25. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. Great. Thank you very much. Council to consider ordinance number 32-09-25, a salary ordinance for appointed officials and employees of the city of Noblesville for 2026.
Move to introduce.
Second?
Ms. Ramon, good evening.
Good evening, Holly Ramon, Human Resources Director. In front of you is the 2026 salary ordinance, and the biweekly salaries listed there do not include, as Mayor Jensen mentioned, does not include across-the-board increase. However, pay grade maximums were increased based on the recommendations of the city's pay grade structure consultant. These adjustments do help ensure that our pay grade structure stays in alignment with market trends. In addition, outlined in your letter are some additional changes, which include but are not limited to title changes. We had a reclassification. We also have 2 positions in the fire department. We have 2 division chiefs who will be retiring soon. We added those job titles under the civilian section. So when we do hire for those positions, we'll have the option of hiring them as either a civilian or under a sworn position. We also removed some of those job titles, and we had some pay grade changes. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of Mrs. Ramon on this item? Hearing none, we will move on to our next item, which is council to consider ordinance number 33-09-25, a salary ordinance for elected officials for 2026.
Move to introduce.
Second?
Ms. Ramon.
The salaries and the language listed in the 2026 ordinance has been unchanged from the 2025 ordinance. There have been no salary increases or revisions other than the year and the ordinance number. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions on this item? Okay. Thank you. I think we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council to consider ordinance number 34-09-25, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Noblesville taxable economic development revenue bonds, Series 2025 Granary Project, and the lending of proceeds thereof to Flattering and Collins.
Good evening, council.
Move to introduce.
Second.
Mr. Haberman, good evening. Now you can introduce yourself.
Good evening. So the ordinance you have in front of you is the first step in the incentive for the project Granary, which the EDA was approved on August 18th. This is for the issuance of bonds to complete that incentive, our contribution to that incentive. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the project or about the ordinance, if you have any.
Any questions of Mr. Haberman? No? Okay. All right.
Thank
We
you
will
very
see
much.
you in 2 weeks.
You will.
Okay. Moving on to zoning matters. Council to consider ordinance number 35-09-25, an ordinance regarding text amendments to adopted ordinance number 18-03-16, Fior Plan Development, allowing a contractor's office with outdoor storage of equipment and materials and modifying the perimeter fencing standards for property at 11460 Greenfield Avenue.
Move to introduce.
Second.
And then, yes, Ms. Ashelman, good evening.
Yes, it is. Unlike most of our zoning matters, it isn't paired with something else. So, this site is approximately 15 acres. It's zoned PB, PD, Planned Business, Planned Development, and was approved in 2016 for Fiore Nursery. That ordinance specifically permitted only wholesale nursery and landscape supply companies as permitted uses on the property. There is an existing building and parking lot there, and the building does include a shop, warehouse, and office space. In fact, the applicants added additional office space within the last year. They have also been keeping equipment generally used for landscaping and nursery uses. And when I explain that the applicant is an excavation company, you will understand that they're not keeping right now the large majority of their equipment on site. So this proposal requests that we allow the operation of a contractor's office with outdoor storage, which would allow the excavation company to move into the property. To do so, they need a text amendment to the previous plan development ordinance. That is covered by this request. The area is pretty transitional in nature. Directly next door is Hood's Gardens, wholesale plants, from the best of my knowledge is what they do. We have the transfer station for waste management on the other side of Greenfield, and we've also got Debco, Midwest Paving, the Drummond property. You may know it by any one of those names. Those uses are also, and that in addition to a contractor's office, they also have outdoor RV and boat storage on that property. So the majority of those properties were actually zoned that way by Hamilton County, and we have taken them over as we've continued to grow. So they are in our ordinance, and we regulate them through their approvals with the county, but we're also trying, as they change, to get them to match our current zoning. So the proposal of this also modifies the preliminary development plan from the original approval. So currently, the 15 acres is a single lot. This proposes to divide it into 3 lots. The existing use would be on Lot 1. There, Lot 2 would be the northern portion of the property. There is also a waiver included in the request to allow a lot without frontage on a public street. They will have access to a public street, they just don't front on it. And it requires an access across Lot 1 to always allow access to the lot. And then Lot 3 is a 4-acre lot the city is currently negotiating with the applicant to purchase for a future fire station. Those negotiations are ongoing. The outdoor storage, and I will let the applicant cover in a little more detail, there is a combination of shadow box fencing, a mound and wall system, and then chain link fencing. And I just want to note the area where it's chain link fence, the majority of that is a very long building on the Hoods property. So it's not really visible to anyone but the Hoods. And this did come to you from the Plan Commission with a 10-0 favorable recommendation to adopt.
Any questions of Ms. Ashelman?
Madam President,
Yes.
what has the feedback been from Hoods?
Mr. Hood was at the public hearing for the Plan Commission, but he did not speak during that public hearing, and I have not talked to him since the application was filed. He is very familiar with our office, so I feel if he did have issues, he would have come into the office.
Okay, yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Denise, you mentioned ongoing negotiations for parcel number 3 with the city and future fire station, or potential future fire station.
Yes.
Can we discuss where we are in those negotiations and whether, are they one dependent on the other, the project and
No,
property, or-
the zoning stands independent of the negotiations. It essentially, at this point, allows them to sell it to another user that meets any of the use requirements if we're not able to come to an agreement. But if the city does purchase it, we will have to come back with a GUO pursuant to the changes we made a couple months ago. As to the status, I'm in it, but
I
not really in
understand.
it.
Understand.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Schoonover, you'll please come forward and introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening, Madam President, councilors. For the record, my name is Jim Schoonover, an attorney with the law firm of Nelson and Frankenberger with offices in Carmel. We are representing the owner and the applicant, Legacy 4-14 LLC, and Roscoe Dorsey, who's present tonight. Roscoe operates Dorsey Excavating, so that would be the use on the real estate. I appreciate all the work that Denise has done with us on this proposal. And I also appreciate her detailed presentation. I'll just touch upon a few quick items. You're all very familiar with the real estate, Greenfield Avenue to the south. This exhibit shows the type of perimeter screening that we're proposing, which is also included in the PUD ordinance. And what you'll see, based on this exhibit, is for the portion that is directly adjacent to the primary building, shown with these green dots, we're going to have a wood shadow box fence that will be along these locations where I'm marking on the screen, which we believe should provide really sufficient screening from Greenfield Avenue. As Denise described, to our east is Hood's Nursery, and along that perimeter would be the chain link fence, which is the blue squares. Then on the back side of the property, and again, going back to the aerial photograph briefly, you'll see that the back side of our property is not directly adjacent to 156. There's another parcel that separates us to the north. But the treatment along the north side is going to be a combination of a wall and a mound. The wall is actually going to be on the inside of the property where storage would go, and would be about 12 feet in height, and then it would have a mound on top of it that would also include some landscaping. So that allows us to provide some very good screening along the north property line and also along the west property line. And then, as you'll see with the green long rectangles in this location, that would be the location of a mound that would have landscaping. This second exhibit, also included in your council brochures, just shows the three lots. The lot 1 where the existing building is located, the lot 2 where a future building may be constructed in the future for Roscoe's purposes. And then the lot here to the west, which is the 4-acre lot that we're in discussions with the city about a future fire station. And those discussions have gone very well. I'm not directly involved in those, but I know they're very productive and they're moving forward. In conclusion, we conducted a neighborhood meeting on September 3rd, and we did receive a unanimous positive recommendation from the Plan Commission on September 15th. Mr. Elliott, regarding Hoods, they would have gotten 2 different notices from our office, one for the neighborhood meeting and then for the Plan Commission meeting. And I believe they were in attendance at the Plan Commission meeting, but I don't recall them speaking at the neighborhood meeting. But with that said, again, we appreciate all the time Denise has spent with us in this project, and we'd respectfully ask for positive adoption consideration tonight, but we'll remain available to answer any questions that you may have of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Schinover? Do I need to separate the two of you down there? Do I need to separate the two of you down there?
No.
We're trying to help each other answer
We'll help
questions.
each other
Maybe
answer
between the two
questions.
of us, we'll be able to figure everything out.
He's
Okay.
usually a buffer.
Okay.
Apologize.
Any questions?
Madam President,
Mr. Davis?
I move to approve ordinance number 350925 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 35-09-25 as presented. This is a roll call vote. Go back.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Elliott.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Madam President, Roscoe Dorsey is a client of mine, so I'm going to abstain on this one.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Thurston.
Aye.
Ms. Wiles.
Aye.
Mr. Boyce.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 abstention. So ordinance passed.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and consideration tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we will move on to miscellaneous continued. Item number 2, council to consider resolution RC-32-25, a resolution approving a declaratory resolution and economic development plan of the redevelopment commission and establishing the Granary Economic Development Area and Allocation Area. Mr. Haberman.
Good evening again. I will put this up here. The resolution you have before you is approving the creation of a allocation area that will support the issuance of the bond that we discussed earlier to support the incentive. This area is for the granary on South 8th Street. You may recall this is the rendering of the project as well. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this, but this is just the next step in the process of creating this incentive and keeping this project.
Questions of Mr. Haberman regarding this resolution?
Madam President,
Mr. Davis.
I move to approve resolution RC-32-35 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve Resolution RC-32-25 as presented. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. Thank you very much. Council to consider resolution number RC-33-25, a resolution regarding the 2026 High Assessed Value Levy Growth Appeal. Mr. Spalding.
Yes, Madam President, members of the council, Jeff Spalding, CFO and Controller. And again, this is another, annual process, and the way that I have historically handled this is to put this resolution before you on the same night that the budget is introduced, because in a typical year, it's highly integrated with that budget and part of that process. And so this is the, same thing that you've approved in previous years, and it provides the authority for the city to proceed with submitting its request for an appeal to adjust the city's maximum levy due to circumstances related to the fast growth of the community. However, there is one slight difference this year than in past years. This was discussed in Finance Committee due to kind of an unusual set of circumstances. Our confidence regarding our eligibility and the likelihood of receiving this appeal is notably different than in past years. So what you're doing is you're providing the authority, you're expressing the authority for me to proceed with the appeal should we determine that we're eligible and have a reasonable chance of pursuing it. And it then is this resolution is required piece for that packet that we submit. You have to show that the council approves the action. So that's what you have before you to consider.
Any questions, Mr. Spalding?
No, Madam President, I'll just
Mr.
add a
Thurston.
comment. We talked about this in Finance Committee. One of the questions I asked Mr. Spalding was, is there any reason why we wouldn't do this? Is there any exposure or, downside to us not doing it? The only thing that we're out if we go through the process and don't get it is just a little bit of his time. He was happy to do it anyway.
He
So
enjoys
there's
this
really
kind of
no
stuff.
downside.
Okay.
Madam President,
Mr. Davis.
I move to approve resolution RC-33-35.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution RC-33-25 as presented. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is it 30? Council to consider resolution RC-34-25, a real property tax abatement authorization for the Patch Nyer Deer Creek Building 2 LLC. Mr. Haberman.
Good evening once again. This resolution is for the tax abatement for Patch Nyer Deer Creek Building 2, which supports a really cool project, business retention project specifically for Garrett Performance Sports Systems, who is relocating their headquarters and manufacturing facility to from 146th Street and Stony Creek Business Park to Deer Creek Business Park on the east side, just off Oleo Road. I'll note that they're going to retain and add a total of 300 jobs, high-wage jobs. They're going to invest $30 million. So this tax abatement is to incentivize and make that project happen. Happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Haberman on this?
Madam President,
Mr. Davis.
I move to approve resolution RC-34-25 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution RC-34-25 as presented. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. Thank you very much. Council to consider resolution RC-35-25, a resolution amending the 2020 Noblesville Comprehensive Plan to include the East Gateway Plan and the West Gateway Plan. Ms. Eshelman?
Good evening. So I'm just going to do a quick overview, and I'm going to include an example I showed at Plan Commission that shows how we'll use the document going forward. So in 2024, city staff selected MKSK for the completion of the East Gateway and the West Gateway plans. The image before you here is the East Gateway. This is the West Gateway, and each study area was designed to try to avoid as much existing single-family residential as possible. And each of these plans identifies major initiatives for the area and sets goals for development based upon it. The plan includes a guide for how to use the document, including action plans, typology pages, and what that just means. So I got these mixed up, I apologize. So this would be considered an action page. So it sets a goal to match a bigger goal, and then it gives design considerations underneath it. It also identifies land use types for the area and street types. So we have street cross sections that identify all the specifics about the street. And then we have different land use types. And these images are inspiration images. We're not saying if you exactly match them, your project will get granted. We have discretion in the design, but it also includes items like how tall the buildings should be, how close to the streets they should be, that type of thing. And we have those for all the different land uses. And then this particular plan also identified what they call catalytic sites. And a catalytic site is just a site that we believe is starting to reach the end of its productive life in its current use. And so it envisions possible land uses, what buildings might look like on those sites. In this particular instance, this is the Firestone property, and it identifies what is shown on the plan as a city hub and what Division Street could look like if this plan was fully implemented. So the plans have different higher goals. The East Gateways focus more on educational uses, which are existing users in the area. And the West Gateway focuses more on health, with Riverview Hospital being one of the primary users within the area. We did quite a bit of stakeholder meetings with property owners, business owners, and residents, and ups at the farmers market to receive input, along with some social media blasted online surveys. So the plan is, we're not forcing redevelopment. The plan just suggests for staff and you possible visions for the area and allows us to continue to make decisions going forward. This will be adopted as an amendment to the existing comp plan, and MKSK is the consultant doing our comp plan update that we're just beginning. And so these plans will be folded into that update as well. It did come to you with a positive recommendation of 10-0 from Plan Commission.
Any questions, Ms. Eshelman? Ms. Boyce?
Not a question, but a comment. Ms. Eshelman, I just want to say I commend all of you for this. I think that this is what we need to do even more often, and I think it's very helpful for both the developers and for us to be able to plan what we want and then get what we want out of the city. It's kind of what our job is as planners for the city, right? And so
Yes.
I'm very impressed with this, and I like what it looks like, and excited to see what hopefully come to fruition in something similar.
So I will say my first initial thought was, why do all plans not look like this? This is a very usable document, and it was one of the easiest reads as a rough draft that we've had, because you're focusing a lot on images and it's just providing guidelines. And it is, I think it will be incredible, and I'm excited to see what our comp plan will look like also.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Mr. Davis.
I move to approve resolution RC-35-25 as presented.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution RC-35-25 as presented. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our agenda, other than council comments.
I have one comment.
Mr. Boyce.
I'm trying to make sure you're late for that birthday party.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No, I did want to mention that I talked to Marnie Cook and the superintendent today. And for those of you who don't know, then there was a huge gas leak right in front of the high school at the main entrance and exit to the high school. And it has been a challenge, but everyone I have talked to has talked about how well Centerpoint, the city, and the schools have worked together. And I've heard the traffic's been good. And so I just want to commend all of our city employees that have worked with that, and schools and Centerpoint, because I think it's gone as well as it could. It could have been a big problem, and definitely a big problem if something happened, but definitely a big problem also just from a traffic standpoint. It sounds like everything's gone well, so thank you for everybody that had their parts in that and working together for it. It's nice when government works well together, so.
Great, thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Keeping with the school's theme, outstanding parade and homecoming week this past week is one of the things that makes our great city very unique. Thanks to all who participated.
Anyone else? No? All right, we are adjourned.
Go Fever.